the ritual. So it's that time of the week again. It's a Saturday, which means it's the end of the stock market for the week. It's closed, and time for me to mention about my Freetrade dividend growth portfolio and how it's performed over the week. I've also decided that I'm going to give a review on Freetrade today, as well as talk about my dividend portfolio and what I've bought. Disclaimer, I'm not a licensed professional. If you seek financial advice, please see a professional. Contrary to the pandemic situation, the markets have actually seen a lot of rallying in the last week. And contrary to the fact of being a value investor, I've also done a lot of purchasing. You could say this is down to the fear of missing out, but personally I wanted just to allocate a higher percentage of my portfolio to stocks rather than having it in cash, as it's not really doing anything like that. I also plan to add a large lump sum in the coming month, but I'll update more on that in a video I'll post in the future. And currently I've been chasing the sectors that have been hit hard by this pandemic, such as the fact that their share price has fallen, but they can still operate as a company with just less business, for example. So the sectors I've been looking at in particular are financial, energy and property. These three sectors, I believe, are the ones that have been hit the hardest. I also know that travel would be incorporated in that, but for the time being, I don't like travel. I feel that it's still going to take a lot of time to rebuild up, and it won't just, as soon as the economy's open, suddenly boom with money and profits. So I believe that's more of a medium-term investment that I will eventually jump on, but not now. On Freetrade, I can actually see how many of the shares of the companies I own, as well as their performance over this time period that I've owned them. So as you can see, I've got about 7 investments so far. And you can also actually go onto the Insights tab. If you click that page there, you can see what kind of diversification I have. So the first one will be the sector type. Have I got cash, commodities, bonds, stocks? As you can see, a large majority of this is in stocks, and then the second portion is cash. However, even though I'm a dividend investor, I'm planning on adding a small allocation to bonds. And you might think, what? He's 20 years old. Why is he even considering bonds? Like, he can outlive the risk. And that'll be something I'll argue for in a future video when I do purchase them. But this is mainly so that I can still get value when it's needed, but not have it in cash. And the Insights page is brilliant for people that love to see the graphs on their investments, to see their allocations and what they can do with it. So I like to see that on the sectors, I can see my different allocations into each sector. You can then see, am I overexposed to this sector? If so, perhaps maybe don't put as much money into that sector and put more money into the other sectors. Potentially even you could sell, but I don't recommend that. And this also allows you to plan based on your risk tolerance and knowledge. So I'm sure, as you can know and you've seen on my investments, you must think, why have I put so much money into Aviva? And now also I'm opening another position with a company in the same sector, right? Finance, both life insurance companies, right? I've now got a position with Legal & General. Why have I got this? Why have I got such a high allocation to these two companies? And that's because I believe at the moment they've got really high value and they incorporate my future beliefs for the economy. As the population is aging, a lot more people are going to need to take out life insurance. Therefore, their business revenue stream will increase as time goes on. So I believe that in the future, and at least in my lifetime, it's going to be a much more profitable business, and these two businesses are the ones that are able to capitalize on it most. Not to mention that whilst Aviva has currently suspended its dividend, they are both big dividend players, and Legal & General is actually due to pay the dividend in about a week's time. Well, the ex-dividend date anyway. So Freetrade can actually show more information on it, like the cost per share I've bought on my investments. So for instance, Aviva, I could scroll down and then see, oh look, I've got a cost basis of this. You could also see how much your investment has gained or lost in the period that you've owned it. It does have analytics. It's not advanced analytics, and personally for me, it's perfect. I don't need much more than that. What would be nice perhaps is a total portfolio change, rather than just saying the number I've lost or gained. I'd like to see what percentage that is, and then perhaps even split that into capital growth and dividends could be separated, and you could see how much you've actually earned in relation to the market. What is worth noting is that when investing, Freetrade don't provide a lot of information about the companies, and this doesn't bother me at all because I do a lot of my research elsewhere. But for a newer investor, if you want that all in one platform, maybe Freetrade isn't for you. Very, very basic, it's streamlined, it's good for what it needs to be, but if you're going to research elsewhere and you don't need the information. You don't want to be cluttered with all this information, a slow app. I'm not naming any, but there are some slow investing apps out there in the UK space. Freetrade's perfect. You've got that ability, you can click buy, you've got it then and there, or it'll be scheduled for the next working day at 3 p.m. However, I would like a little bit more information, and that's in regards to dividend history and dividend yield, because at the moment it only seems to show capital growth, right? And I believe that a lot of investors, especially in the UK area, are dividend investors. They'd like to see what the yield is at that current time. And it would be such a simple feature to add. I just hope they do in the future. So a common question I see is your money safe with Freetrade? Well, yes, very safe actually. It's protected by the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, up to a total of £85,000. And that's actually only regarding the cash in your account. So if you're holding £85,000 in cash in your investing app, well, that's protected. And the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, FSCS, will cover that in the event of the company going bust. But also it's worth noting that your stocks and shares are owned by a nominee. So this nominee will protect you from the company trying to claim that and use that as admin costs when going bankrupt. If the company does go bust, it may take a longer period to recover your assets, but at least you know you're not going to lose it. It's also very unlikely that Freetrade will go bust, as they've had, I believe, 3 different crowdfunding attempts, and all of them have been largely successful. Continuing with my investments, we could look at Shell. Although I've spoken a lot about Shell on this channel already, and if you're curious about why I'm invested in Shell, click the card at the top right which shows my dividend purchases in April and what I've bought. So Redrow is the other company I'm very bullish on at the moment. They'd seen a lot of growth over the last year, and now with this pandemic crisis, they've seen extreme volatility and drops, and they've lost something like 80% of their overall value. And I believe that this is a stock that was planning to grow. It would have grown consistently further anyway. And now it is such a great value, and they are dividend payers, although it is suspended for the current time. I believe there's no reason why the company shouldn't survive. They've got a lot of cash, they've got a lot of short-term and long-term assets, so they're weathered to survive this. Well, the watch list is very useful, and you can search through the investments using the Discover tab, which I'll speak about in a minute. But this watch list, you can click on the investments you'd like. You could see a few statistics about them. You can have that on the side underneath your portfolio. So when you check the app, it will be there ready for you to see. And then as a value dividend investor, I will look at my watch list regularly. And if I see ones that have surprisingly more value than the rest, I'm going to buy into it. And if you're interested in investing for yourself with Freetrade, click the link in the description to get a free share valued up to £200 when you fund the account, which, as I mentioned earlier, this now brings me onto the Discover tab. And this tab is where you can search for the stocks. And I particularly like this because you can search by UK, US, you can also search by bond ETFs, stock ETFs, and you can also search by stocks. So you can specify, right, I want UK stocks, and then it will show you a streamlined list of these stocks that you can look into. Oh look, there's Admiral Group. If I click that, right, I can do some research elsewhere. Do I like this company? Is this something I'd add to my portfolio? And if it is, you just click the add to watch list button. And also there's another feature where you can search by recently added. You've also got sectors on the sector layout on the portfolio breakdown. Yes, that's brilliant, that's useful. I can see my allocations. And if you'd like to learn more about how I research an investment for my portfolio, leave a comment below, and in the future I'll make a video based on that. Whilst they claim to have a wide range of ETFs, exchange traded funds, you actually find that it's quite limited. However, for a basic investor, there's enough ETFs there, but it is worth noticing that some of the most popular funds in the UK, such as Vanguard Life Strategy, isn't currently there. However, they are planning to add more ETFs and shares, so I wouldn't be surprised if they added it in the future. And this is a lower number than most of the other platforms in the UK, but you get it for a better price. Yes, the price that you buy it is still the same, but the fees will be less. There is no platform fee for Freetrade, unless of course you open an ISA, and I'll speak about this in a minute. Whereas something like Hargreaves Lansdown, they'll charge you 0.45% just to use their platform for a start, and then an additional, right, £11.95 just to make a purchase of this. So Freetrade are definitely winning in that department when it comes to this. but it is also worth noticing. Freetrade do have a spot rate fee on foreign equities. So if you wanted to buy a US stock, there is a 0.45% fee added onto it. It may not seem like a lot, but when purchasing US stocks, you're already going to be at a loss. They've charged you extra. It's going to be added onto the price just to buy that investment. If dividends are paid in dollars, they're going to take a spot fee from that as well. It is worth noting that currently in April 2020, you cannot have REITs in your ISA. A REIT is a real estate investment trust, and currently, until Freetrade expand and become a bigger company, they can't offer this. This is something to do with tax implications, as REITs are taxed differently to standard investments. So it is worth noting that how do Freetrade make their money? And I mentioned earlier that yes, they have that £3 a month ISA fee, which I should note isn't for everyone. If you don't plan on growing a lump sum of money over the long term, then the general investment account is fine for you and that costs nothing. But Freetrade do make their money from that ISA account and that spot rate fee for US equities stocks. Currently they're a freemium company, which means they offer all of their services for free, but if you want to pay extra, you can to get the best advantages. So Freetrade are going to create a Freetrade Alpha account, which they haven't released much information on at the moment, but it should be priced around £10 a month. You can also check things in the activity tab. Now, if you scroll down there, you can see your statements for each month, which will compile the overall value of your portfolio. How many dividends have you earned in that month, right? All of these are very useful to have, especially if you're using a spreadsheet to track. So this activity feed is perfect. You can also see when you've bought certain shares. The deposits are put on there too. So you can see when you've topped up money into your account. And I should warn you that if you're doing bank transfers, it will take a few hours if you've done it on a working day. If you've made a deposit on a Saturday, you won't see the money in your account till a Monday, a few hours after the market is opened. So who is Freetrade for? I believe that this is for new investors. So anyone that's looking to get started in investing, brilliant place to start. There's low fees and a wide range of things that you can invest in. You've also got it for value investors. I believe currently this is the best platform for value investors to invest with, because the cheap fees and the future of the company looks promising. So this would be a long-term platform. Competitors in this region, however, would be something like Vanguard. They're very cheap, but they only offer funds and trading 212, which is cheaper, but the catch is that they make their money off of trading options and commissions. So they make their money in more sketchy ways, I would say. So I believe that for transparency's sake, the long term of the company, Freetrade is definitely an investment you would make in yourself with your accounts. However, I don't believe Freetrade is for day traders. The UI for purchasing and selling stocks is quite clunky, to say the least. You can't set a fixed price, or at least I haven't been able to, unless you schedule it. And if you want to buy and sell immediately during the certain times, whilst it is free to do so, it's very clunky. Lastly, it's worth noting that this is only a mobile app. In the future, they do plan on adding a web page, but for the time being, it does not exist. Thank you for watching. I'm Osborne Foreman. Have a good night.